Hello, bonjour, hola, assalamualaikum, selamat sejahtera. Welcome to COMAT 2024. I'm Zain, your AI host for today. I'd like to go over a few points as a reminder to all audience on the etiquette of attending this webinar. First, everyone who attends this webinar will be given an e-certificate after each session. Therefore, do not forget to register your full name once the link for registration is open. Make sure it is typed correctly and your email address is accurate too. Only for teachers or education officers in Malaysia, please make sure you also provide your IC number. You will find the registration link is pinned in the live chat box of this YouTube channel. Second, teachers from Malaysia, don't forget to also register your attendance in SPL KPM. The registration link will be released 10 minutes before the session is over. Third, we would love to hear from you during today's presentation. If you have any questions for our speaker, please feel free to send them through the YouTube live chat box. The speaker will be answering your questions by the end of the session. If we don't answer your questions during today's webinar, we will be sure to follow through afterwards. Fourth, be respectful of others. When communicating, please be polite. Impolite language will not be tolerated. An audience who are rude will be removed from the webinar. Finally, we would appreciate it if you could share today's webinar with others through your social networks. Thank you for taking time to listen to this announcement. See you again soon. Terima kasih. Arigato. Kamsahamnida.
Assalamualaikum, selamat datang, good day, and welcome to the International and Domestic Virtual Colloquium or COMAT 2024 organized by the Institute of Teacher Education, International Languages Campus, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I am Muhammad Irman, the moderator for today's colloquium, Series 11, entitled Empowering Lifelong Learning, Building a Culture of Adaptability and Upskilling in Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on our live EduWeb TV YouTube channel for COMAT 2024. The theme for this year's colloquium is Responsible Education for a Dignified Future. Similar to the previous year's installments, the goal of this colloquium is to provide the space for educators all over the world to discuss, share, and exchange views with fellow educators on topics related to education and how they are transforming globally. Indeed, through this colloquium, there is plenty to learn, hence expanding our knowledge. COMAT 2024 brings you a total of 18 series in the form of individual webinars with speakers from Malaysia and abroad. This is the 11th series of our virtual colloquium, and I hope you will stay tuned till the end of this session. Now, allow me to introduce our speaker for today's webinar series on Empowering Lifelong Learning, Building a Culture of Adaptability and Upskilling in Malaysia. Please welcome Mr. Zainal bin Abbas. Ladies and gentlemen, before we actually pass this to Mr. Zainal. Hello, Mr. Zainal. How are you?
Hello, Irman. Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, for your information, Mr. Zainal Abbas is currently the Director of Education Resources and Technology Division, Ministry of Education Malaysia, and also Acting Deputy Director General of School Operations, Ministry of Education Malaysia. And at present, as the Director of Education Resources and Technology Division, Ministry of Education Malaysia, Mr. Zainal oversees the establishment and management of policies related to resources and technology in education. The division is responsible for production and management of school textbooks and National School Textbook Loan Scheme, production of teaching and learning materials in a variety of media formats, creating and management of digital learning platform, the Lima, and programs to support digital learning and digital literacy, research and development of educational resources and technologies, and the integration of technology in education, management of governance of national digital education policy, management of the school resource center and programs to inculcate reading culture amongst students, management of the National Book Council of Malaysia, MBKM, and the governance of National Book Policy, DBN. Prior to assuming role as Director of Education Resources and Technology Division, Mr. Zainal was the Director of School Management Division, Director of Federal Territory of Kuala Lumpur State Education Department, and Director of Sports, Curricular and Art Division, Ministry of Education Malaysia. Mr. Zainal is also the governing board member of Yayasan Hijau Green Foundation, National Book Council of Malaysia, Malaysia Book City Corporation, and serves as member of the Athlete Selection Committee, Olympic Council of Malaysia, and also former Malaysian athletics chief coach. Okay, serves as World Athletics as a lecturer for World Athletics Coaches Education and Certification System, CECS. Okay, so based on his background, so I believe that our audience are eager to hear more about the sharing on this topic. So hence, the floor is now yours, Mr. Zainal bin Abbas.
Thank you, Irman, for your long introduction just now. Anyway, first of all, congratulations to the Teacher Training Division, Ministry of Education Malaysia, for the organization of COMAT, or International Domestic Virtual Colloquium for 2024. This is the 11th edition, and for today, I think my presentation will be entitled Empowering Lifelong Learning Through Building a Culture of Adaptability and Upskilling in Malaysia. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in the education system, when we are churning out the human resource or the human capital for the country, there are various aspects in which we have to look at, particularly in terms of what the children will be facing in the real world. When we talk about education, we have to consider that the children will be in school in Malaysia for a period of 11 years. 6 years in the primary education, plus you have another 5 years in the secondary education. And of course, if you include preschool, you will have 12 years of education. Now, what is the purpose of them staying in school for 12 years? It is, of course, to prepare them for what is to come after their life as a student in school. Whether they continue their education with the tertiary education by entering universities, polytechnics, or even Institute of Higher Learning, it is to prepare them for the future jobs, or what they are going to be when they grow up. So basically, when we look at the whole education system, when we look at the curriculum, the most important thing for us to consider is what is the demand of the industry currently. If we look at jobs available 20, 30 years ago, or even 50 years ago, it is totally different from what is available right now and what is going to be available in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time. So in order for us to really prepare our future generation with the correct skills, with the correct knowledge for them to survive in the real world, we have to really look into all these aspects and ensure that the education which we provide them includes the knowledge which are required, as well as the skills which will enable them to survive in the 21st century. Can we go to the slide? If you look at the first slide, here is the core skills for workers in 2023. Now, this is from the World Economic Forum entitled Future of Jobs report back in 2023. And this listing is actually the core skills of workers, which is derived from the survey done by the World Economic Forum throughout 2023, in which they are actually interviewing the job market, or looking at the job market and interviewing industries, and finding out what are actually needed for workers in the future. And as you can see here, the top listing in the core skills for workers is analytical thinking. Second one is creative thinking. Third one, resilient, flexibility and agility. Number 4 is motivation and self-awareness. Number 5 is curiosity and lifelong learning. And if you look at number 6, that is where technological literacy comes in. Now, we look at skills. When we talk about skills, if you look at the bottom part of the list, or in the 26 right up to the number 6 just now, technological literacy, you can see that some of the aspects in which we are focusing on in education are actually at the bottom half of the table. What is required by the industry when they want to employ workers? They look at analytical thinking, they look at creative thinking, they look at resilience, flexibility and agility, they look at motivation, self-awareness, they look at curiosity and lifelong learning, as well as technological literacy. Knowledge in terms of subject being taught, in terms of physics, biology, chemistry, mathematics, science, or history or language itself, are actually in the bottom half of what is needed. When we consider that students actually, the year in, year out, are being churned out by universities, for example, you might have 5 or 10 workers actually, or 10 candidates actually applying for a job, and all of them might have a first class degree. So what does employer actually look at when they want to identify which candidate for them to hire as their employer? So they don't look at the degrees, they don't look at the level of course, the degrees plays an important role, but if all 5 or 10 candidates have the same degree in accounting, for example, and all has a first class degree, all of them have a first class degree, how do they differentiate which one they would want to employ? And this is where the core skill of workers comes in. They look at the analytical thinking side of it, the creative thinking side of it, resilient and flexibility and agility, motivation, self-awareness, curiosity, and lifelong learning. So over the 5 years, technology over there comes at number 6. Now, this is skills in which is needed by the industry right now, as reported by the World Economic Forum back in 2023, just over 6 months ago. Technology, of course, plays an important role nowadays in any jobs being created. And as we know, this technological skill can actually be also taught to our students to prepare them for the future. And the survey by the World Economic Forum also stated that industries themselves will actually integrate or develop the technological aspect related to their industry into the education or the training of the workers. So when employing, these will be the core skills in which they are looking at. If we move to the next slide, the Smith School of Business, Queen's University from Canada. Can we move to the next slide? They also focus on 6 meta skills for career success, or how to be irreplaceable. As I mentioned, when you apply for a job, other candidates are also applying for a job in the real world. And what differentiates you from the others, as mentioned by the World Economic Forum, will be the top 5 or the top 10 skills which have been seen in the previous slide. But here by the Queen's University of Canada, they look at the evolution of things, biological and ecological aspects, which also influence the adaptation of the candidates, climate change, we talk about climate change, urbanization, longer life expectancy. Those are some of the elements in which are also important. Geographical and political environment, immigration and trade barriers shift, polarization as well as populism. And they look also at human norms and preferences in terms of collaboration, consumption, diminishing trust in authority, as well as 24/7 connections. So connectivity in human norms is also being considered when we look at the evolution of the skills needed in the industry right now. And the most important element also being utilized there is digitalization and technological evolution, looking at computing powers, explosiveness of sensors and data, as well as artificial intelligence. It has been reported that through the World Economic Forum, they mentioned that it is important also for companies to look at adaptation, and 75% of the companies being interviewed in their survey mentioned that AI as well as technological adaptation over the next 5 years will actually increase in terms of the usefulness in companies' operation daily. Looking back at this, the 6 meta skills for career success, how to be irreplaceable, how you want to be the choice candidate. Most important, number one, as mentioned by Smith School of Business, is to see clearly, the ability for the candidates to see clearly, build an accurate picture of current ability and limitations and performance. And the key skills, meta skills there are self-awareness and empathy. Candidates should be able to move quickly. They should be able to be flexible, creative, as well as have a learning capacity. We mentioned also in the list by the World Economic Forum about lifelong learning. So learning capacity is something which employers actually also look at. And of course, the third one is resilient, which perseverance in the face of setbacks, harness pressure to fuel growth and perform when it matters most. So all this, so 6 meta skills, as mentioned by the Smith Business School, are things which are related also to the findings from the World Economic Forums in terms of the skills needed for the future of our younger generation. If we look at the next slide, can we go to the next slide? Yes, this is also by the World Economic. Why I chose the study by the World Economic Forum is because it is important when we are giving out education, or we are streamlining or setting up the education system in a country. We have to look at what would be the end product, or how or what we need to equip our children with. Now, the World Economic Forum, in their study back in 2023, they looked at defining education, and they introduced the 4.0 education taxonomy for the future of learning, and they focuses on 2 things. Number 1 is content, and number 2 is experiences. In bahasa Melayu, maybe it's kandungan, content, as well as pengalaman, the experience of it. And the 8 areas in which they focused on in terms of content, they also look at global citizenship skills. As we know, the world now is a world without borders. Therefore, jobs can be created anywhere around the world, and you should have the capability to not only enter the job market in your own country, but also in other countries as well, and not limit yourself to what is happening only in your own country, or only in Malaysia as we are now. And content should also include things that focuses on building awareness about the wider world, sustainability, and playing an active role in the global community. When we look at content, another element which we focus on is innovation and creativity skill, to include content that foster skills required for innovation, including complex problem solving, analytical thinking, creativity, and system analysis. Now, these are the skills. If you remember the first slide, these are the top skills, the top 5 skills as mentioned in the survey by the World Economic Forum. The third one is technological skills. So you have your innovation, you have your creative thinking, but students now will also need technological skill to include contents that is based on developing digital skills, including programming, digital responsibility, and the use of technology. So the programming is also part of an important element which should be included in the education system. When we look at activities like ones being implemented in Malaysia, for example, you have activities related to microbit, for example, doing coding, doing programming. Those are some of the skills which is necessary for students, and it should be taught in a blended way so that they also incorporate the global citizenship skill as well as the innovation and creative element of education itself. And the fourth element in content is interpersonal skill, which should include the content that focuses on interpersonal, emotional intelligence, empathy, cooperation, negotiation, leadership, and social awareness. So interpersonal skill is also important. When we talk about technology, most people talk about the equipments needed, the devices, the robotic element of it. But what employers look at or want to identify in candidates they would want to hire as their employer would be, one of it would be communication skills. So you have your innovative problem solving element of it, but you will also need a communication skill, good communication skill. Ability to work with other people would be another element in interpersonal skills. Now, looking at experiences or pengalaman di dalam pembelajaran, utilizing innovative pedagogies, how we can use our teaching pedagogies to prepare the students for what is to come in the future. Personalized self-paced learning is an element which is being stressed on in education taxonomy 4.0 framework, in which we know that students learn at different pace and with different abilities. Some students will be able to understand when the teacher explains a formula, for example, the Newton's law, the number 3, for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Just by saying it out loud, a student might understand. Another student might find it difficult to grasp the concept of Newton's law number 3. Here, the lecturer or the teacher might have to explain, might have to demonstrate or provide example for that student in order for them to understand. And we know that in schools in Malaysia, you can ask the teachers to repeat a certain concept. So what is Newton's law number 3? Can you explain again? Can you repeat what you just said? And you ask 3 times, 4 times for the teacher to repeat, then you'll get the deadly glance from the teacher. But of course, through personalized learning, through materials which supports education, for example, like what we have in our Delima platform or digital learning platform, you can ask the teacher to repeat as many times as you want. Some students learn differently. They would require graphs or graphics or videos in order for them to understand. So providing them with the various techniques, the various materials to help in their understanding would help to personalize learning and will be able to get them to learn faster and also be able to understand much easier. So it has to cater for each and every individual student's ability and how or technique in which they best adapt to learning. So personalized learning, self-paced learning is something which is important. Accessibility and inclusivity in learning is also something which is important. From learning which is confined to a classroom, suddenly during pandemic COVID-19, we find that all schools are closed. So where do students go to learn? And this has helped. The pandemic has COVID-19 pandemic has helped to fast track the digitalization in education. We come up with Google Classroom. We have our Delima platform in which students can learn from anywhere around the world and at any time. So just imagine, with our Delima platform, the students can actually, while waiting for the school bus to go back home, actually with the device can surf the internet and look at some of the materials which are available on the Delima platform to help their understanding with what the teacher has taught in the classroom earlier. To do their revision, they can even do their homeworks online through our Delima platform. So that is the intention of having our digital education platform, is to allow accessibility for the students to actually gain the knowledge or access to education from anywhere and at any time to their likings and to their free time. Problem-based and collaborative learning, this is something which is also very important. We remember the survey by the World Economic Forum. Problem solving is among the top 5 criteria or skills looked out for by the employers nowadays when they appoint or they want to pick a worker. So we have to prepare the students so that they are able to problem solve and collaborate with others as well in learning. So it's no longer giving out information, teachers giving out information, facts and figures, formulas in mathematics, formulas in science and physics, but it is more of students exploring, gaining information, trying to solve problems using the formula being given. So that is one element of experience or pengalaman belajar which is required nowadays in the 21st century learning. And of course, the final part of experience would be lifelong learning. Students driven towards learning, the resilient, the grit to continue in learning. Nowadays, we talk about micro credentials, where students or even the general public can attend courses, short-term courses, in order to improve their skills. Because we know, for one, that skills nowadays can vary, and at times you will need new skills. You need to equip yourself with new skills in order for you to be competitive in the 21st century. So lifelong learning is something, an element which is needed not only for students but also for teachers, as well as teacher trainings. For you the teacher trainers out there, you have to consider that when you teach your trainee, the candidates who are going to be teachers, you are teaching them, for example, in 2024. But then what you teach them in 2024 might not be relevant in 2030. So teachers or these candidates, teacher candidates, should also be or have this resilient to themselves learn and understand that skills needed can evolve. Knowledge can evolve. There's always new findings, new research being done, new findings being introduced, and you will need new skills in order for you to adapt to the changes happening, especially when we talk about the fourth industrial revolution. We talk about the industrial revolution, for one, since the first industrial revolution, we are now in the fourth industrial revolution and moving towards the fifth industrial revolution. The requirements or the skills are totally different, right? Previously, when you go to banks, you want to transfer money, you have to go to the bank, you have to go to the tellers. But nowadays, you can do it online without having to go physically to the bank and to the tellers. at the bank to transfer the money. So when we look at the job availability for clerical, for the bank tellers, for example, they are actually declining in the world today because the system have or the machines have actually replaced them. You can do it, the consumers can do it online. So the same with skills in teaching. What you learn today might not be relevant. The teaching style today might not be relevant in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time. I remember when I was learning teaching for one, we all know of the chalk and talk kind of system. The teacher talks, uses the chalk and the blackboard in class. But nowadays, if you go to classrooms, there's hardly any blackboard to be found. You have whiteboards. You have nowadays you have the computer screen. You have your smart boards available, and these are skills which teachers like myself who learned maybe in the 80s do not have. So I will need to all the time, at all time, to try and improve my skills, learn new skills, unlearn some of the skills I've learned before back in 1980s, and learn new skill in order for me to give out the best education to the younger generation right now. So these are the education framework as mentioned by the World Economic Forum, which are needed to be transformed in teaching and learning. Right, can we go to the next slide? Right, still on Education 4.0, this is the taxonomy. When we talk about the taxonomy of Education 4.0, in the 21st century, these are the three characteristics. If you look on the left-hand side, level 1, those are the three characteristics. You have abilities and skills, you have attitude and values, and then you have the traditional knowledge and information. So when we talked earlier, I mentioned about Newton's law number 3, all the Newton's law, all the physics theory, all the science theory, talk about photosynthesis, you talk about the mathematical formula, you talk about history, you talk about geography, all that is included in knowledge and information. So that is just one small line at the bottom. But if you look at the top of the list, is ability and skill. And when we talk about ability and skill, just look at what is at level 2, cognitive ability. So the ability of the brain to be analytical, and then you have social, interpersonal skill, and you have physical. And looking at the branch further on level 3, the emphasized element for each of the component. For cognitive, you have creativity, you have critical thinking, you have digital skills and programming, problem solving, as well as system analysis. So just remember, when we're talking about education, it is no longer just about giving knowledge out to the students. It's also to develop the students' ability and the skills which are required among the students. Number one, we have to develop the cognitive skill, the analytical skills of the students through their creativity. Exercises should be creative. There should be critical thinking, digital skills, programming, problem solving, and system analysis. And then you look at the social element, the interpersonal, how students interact with one another. Through collaboration, through communication. As I mentioned, communication skill is one important element which all employers are looking out for. A negotiation ability, as well as social and emotional awareness, which is also something which is very important. And the final part in the second branch or second row is physical, in terms of your ability and skill. In order to be balanced, we look at coordination, we look at positional awareness as well as strength. So we look at all that in elements needed in ability and skill. And the second part is attitude and values. Now, the Ministry of Education, if we look at our national education philosophy, falsafah pendidikan kebangsaan kita, we focus on Jerry. rohani, jasmani, emosi dan juga intellectual. So our education philosophy, although introduced back in the 50s, in the 60s, but it is also taking into consideration the attitudes and values. That is why when we look at the education system, the Ministry of Education recently introduced Karama Insania, character building, pembangunan character. All that is actually incorporated in Education 4.0 taxonomy through attitudes and values. Self-regulatory is one, what is within the students themselves, their adaptability, their consciousness, their curiosity, their grit, their determination, growth mindset, as well as their initiative. And the second one is societal. So when we talk about societal or extra personal, this will involve their involvement with other people other than themselves, their peers, their parents, the community. We look at civic responsibility, we look at environmental stewardship, empathy and kindness, as well as global citizenship. So when we talk about education in the 21st century, in the fourth industrial revolution, these are the characteristics, these are the skills, the elements needed in our education nowadays. And the last part, which is stated here by taxonomy of future learning, is the knowledge. Knowledge will always be there. I'm not saying that it is not important. Teach them the maths formula, the science theory, the physics, the histories, the language itself, but that is the main line. We should also consider the students' abilities and skill. We should also consider their attitude and values. So knowledge, skills, attitude, plus the ability of the students should also be developed in order for us to get the best future generation. Going to the next slide, just to touch a little bit on our digital education policy. Now, in 2023, the Ministry of Education launched our digital education policy, and in that digital education policy, the aim is to review and to enhance the smart school policy. Of course, we know, and as I've mentioned, 75% of the companies being interviewed in the survey by the World Economic Forum states that they would want the candidates or the employees of the future to be able to adapt to the digital advancement happening all around them. So the aim when we launched the digital education policy is to review, to enhance what we had before the smart school policy. It was approved by the cabinet in May and then launched by the minister back in November 2023. Next, just look at how we devised the whole policy. It is not alienated. It is not only for education. When we look at our digital education policy, we look at several other governmental initiatives all around us. Most importantly, we look at our Malaysian Education Blueprint 2013-2025. It's coming to an end next year. But we also look at our 12th Malaysia Plan and how it can help in the rollout of our digital education policy. We look at our national fourth industrial revolution 4IR policy. That is also very important, so that what we do and how we prepare our children in schools is in line with how the country is going to set up with the fourth industrial revolution. We look at Jendela, the Jendela Initiative, National Digital Infrastructure Plan. We look at Malaysian Digital Economy Blueprint, as well as the National Science, Technology and Innovation Policy. And when the government introduced the Malaysia Madani concept, we also inculcate the Malaysia Madani concept into our digital education policy. Remember when we talk about in the previous slide, we talk about the ability education 4.0 taxonomy. One of the most important element over there is the abilities and the skills, abilities and values, as well as abilities and skills which are needed by the students in the future. So the Madani concept is strictly is in line with what we aim to achieve through our digital education policy. If we look at the next slide, just to touch a little bit about the Industrial Revolution in the center there. First Industrial Revolution, as we know, is about machine. We talk about the evolution of the steam machinery from coal previously in the train, for example. They moved to a steam train, and then they have electric train. But that is the first industrial revolution. A second industrial revolution, we look at the mass production in terms of mass and using machines, assembly line being introduced. In the third industrial revolution, we look at computer and animation, automation, not animation, automation being introduced. And the fourth industrial revolution, we look at cyber and physical development of the systems. And we are moving towards the fifth industrial revolution. We look around us. Back in 2020, there was no mention at all of AI. World Economic Forums themselves in 2020 produced a report on future schools or schools for the future, and there was no mention of AI. But in 2023, when they introduced the report on Education 4.0 taxonomy, there was already a mention of AI in 2020. So just in the space of 3 years, technological development has advanced, and there is a need for us to equip our children, our school-going children, with the necessary skills in order for them to adapt to life in the future. Of course, Sustainable Development Goal is part of and incorporated into the digital education policy. Again, I mentioned we look at what is happening around the world and the aspiration of the world to make the world we live in a more sustainable world in terms of the environment, in terms of cost of living, in terms of health, in terms of education, and all the other elements in the SDG. World Economic Forum is something we always look for because in preparing our children for the future, we have to look at what the future is going to be for them. So it is being discussed at length through the forums done by the World Economic. Also, the ASEAN region, for the ASEAN region, we have the ASEAN Master Plan 2025 to improve education, e-education, provide service, access, quality, experience, especially in rural area of ASEAN countries. Most of our ASEAN countries are developing countries, so we have that digital divide between town and rural, urban and rural areas. So that is also something which we look at so that we address all the issues mentioned, not only in our ASEAN region, but also what is happening around the world. So next, if you look at the next slide, this is just a little bit of the vision of our digital education plan. Just move the slide forward, thank you. Of course, the vision is to foster a competitive, digitally fluent generation. This is important. This is a skill which they also need to have. Yeah, the digital skill, the ability to use technology in education, to use technology to solve problems, to use technology to face the challenges of what is to come in the future. Objective, of course, is to develop digitally fluent students to meet the demands of the digital era. Now, this is something very interesting. We talk about digital fluency, but in actual fact, digital fluency, now we are in 2024, we talk about digital fluency. 2023, we introduced the digital education, digital policy, but back in 2016, 2015, people are already talking about digital fluency, the development of education, the development, transformation of education using technology. And I think the pandemic has somewhat fast-tracked that development, the transformation in education. So we still need our students to be digitally fluent, to be adaptive to all the technology advancement happening all around the world. Enabling educators and education leaders to incorporate digital technology into the education system. This is another stakeholder which is very important when we talk about our digital education policy. The teachers, the administrators in school, administrators at the district education department, the state education departments also need to be digitally literacy and in line with our digital education policy. Strengthening the infrastructure, and digital education content. This is something which is also very important, and the Ministry of Education Malaysia is working hard on in order to provide the proper infra as well as infrastructure for digital education learning to happen in Malaysia. And finally, to optimize active engagement of strategic partnerships as a catalyst for digital education. We know that it is not possible for the Ministry of Education to actually do all these objectives, or to achieve all these objectives by just doing it on our own. We need the help from all the various other industries, all the various government sectors, non-government organization, agencies like the Malaysian Digital Economy Corporation, MDAC, to help us, Google, our stakeholders, Microsoft, as well as Apple, to help us to achieve these objectives, as well as to achieve the vision and prepare our students for the future. So involvement of everyone, including parents as well as community, is also very important in helping us to introduce or to make that transformation in education. Next slide. This is the 6 trusts which we have, 6 strategic trusts in our digital education policy. The first one is to focus on the school children, digitally fluent students. Second one is to focus on the teachers. Third one is to focus on the leadership culture among our administrators. The fourth one would be empowering infrastructure. Content is also very important. The quality of our digital content is also very important. And the strategic partners, as I've mentioned, the stakeholders, to help the Ministry of Education in rolling out and achieving the targets, the objectives of our digital education policy. Now, in producing digitally fluent students, as I mentioned, we look in the previous slides of all the various policies being churned out by the government, our 4IR policy, our science technology policy. So all that is to help produce digitally fluent students who can strive to use digital technology as an integrated, in an integrated manner. Creatively, innovatively, responsibly, and ethically to produce and create innovation. That is why when we equipped our Center of Excellence all around the country, we also provided the Center of Excellence with 3D printers so that students can learn to be innovative and can also innovate and create new items to help in their learning. So creative and innovative thinking is something which is also inculcated in the digital education policy. We have analyzing data scientifically, problem solving, effective communication, and collaboration. Those are the 4 elements we look at when we prepare our digital education policy. I spoke of Delima, our digital educational learning platform, Malaysia, Delima. Can we look at the next slide? This next one. I've spoken on this. This is just a glimpse of Delima, what we have in our digital learning platform. There's a lot of application. In fact, for students, we have over 58 counterparts or partners providing various programs, various elements which can help the students in their learning. Remember, we talk about personalized learning, self-paced learning, learner's experience. All that is available through Delima. If you look at the top, you have your EduApp TV. From EduApp TV, we have close to about 12,700 videos altogether of education conducted or compiled by our excellent teachers to help in their learning. So students can actually look at that. They don't have to only rely on what is being taught in school, but by looking at the videos or by going through our array of videos available through our EduTech TV, we can actually help the students to personalize learning, help them to understand even further. So this is just an interface. If you look to the right hand side, the top right hand side, you have the National Archive, for example. National Archive provides a platform where students can visit all the memorials in Malaysia virtually without having to leave their hometown. For example, if you are studying in Baram, in Sarawak, you don't have to come to Kuala Lumpur to see the memorials. You don't have to come all the way to Semenanjung, fly all the way to Semenanjung. It costs you a lot of money to actually come over to Semenanjung, to fly in, accommodation, food, transport to visit Memorial of Independence, for example, Memorial Kemerdekaan. Tengok, tak perlu terbang jauh ke Semenanjung, boleh saja melalui Delima. And in Delima also, we provide free tuition. So parents, I know in Malaysia, parents send their children for tuition. In Delima, we actually have free tuition. Maxis, for one, is providing free tuition for all students aged between 10, 11, 12, right up to 17 years of age for 5 subjects. Bahasa Melayu, Bahasa Inggeris, English language, history, science, mathematics is being provided for free by Maxis. Also, through our work with Microsoft, Microsoft is providing us with Pintar application, Pintar apps, in which you can actually get also free tuition for all the subjects starting from preschool right up to secondary school. So this is just an example of what we have in Delima. There's a lot more for you to explore through Delima. Just type in Delima 2.0 and we are upgrading it into 3.0 right now to get you a better learning experience through our platform. Okay, next, very quickly, this is what the teachers would be available for the teachers, for example. Just another click perhaps. Can I have the administrator to just click another time? Yeah, this is what the teachers will look at. Maybe if you look on the left hand side there, you have AI is available. Yeah, we have quite a number of AIs available on our Delima platform. I think if you just another click or you move it, I'm not sure the screen is not moving. Can you just get the screen? Yeah, this is an example of the AIs available. We have Perplexity, you have Bing, you have ChatGPT, you have Gemini. All those are available for free for our users. And also, if you look at the right hand side, top right hand side, you have the ISTE, International Society of Teaching in Education, Technology in Education, which provides training in AI for all our teachers. So you can access training programs in terms of AI by clicking on that ISTE icon. To the right hand side, you have Khan Academy also providing training for AI. But most importantly, Khan Academy also provides some samples of interactive materials which are available online as well. So next, all this you have to browse through and get that experience. And just go to the next slide. So when we talk about, can we move to the next slide, please? When we talk about cultivating a culture of adaptability, I'm not sure who's controlling the slide. Can we move to the next slide? Cultivating a culture of adaptability. We talk about leadership and mindset, our digital education policy, the third trust, for example. We focus on the leadership in the school, the headmasters, the principals, as well as administrators. So they need to have that leadership mindset to work and look at the development happening all around the world. Communication and learning is also very important. Communicate openly and transparently, encourage open communication, invest in continuous learning. Remember the skills required in the workers of the 21st century. And of course, embracing change and failure, because nothing is as straightforward as it is. Changes will happen all around us. Sometimes we succeed, sometimes we fail, but at any time, we have to be adaptive to the changes. We have to be adaptive to the success as well as to the failures. And structure and collaboration is also very important in the culture of adaptability. We have to build a diverse and inclusive teams, create a flat organization, seek external collaboration as well, because you can't do it alone. You need help from others, and it's good to have that collaborating work. It's my watch. Happening all around us. We need, if you remember the African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. It is not the responsibility of one person alone. We have to work together. Next slide, just a quotation probably from Alvin Toffler. He's a futuristic thinker. Back in the 70s, the late Alvin Toffler says the illiterate of the 21st century is not those who cannot read or write. Ya, mereka yang illiterate, yang tidak boleh membaca menulis ni bukan lagi those not the people who cannot read and write, but the illiterate of the 21st century are those who cannot learn, those who cannot unlearn and relearn. You learn something, but sometimes what you learn is not necessarily relevant anymore, not necessarily adaptable anymore. Therefore, you have to unlearn and you have to learn new skills. I remember back in the 70s, I was learning how to ride a bicycle. So then I have to unlearn how to ride a bicycle, because nowadays people are going around in scooters or on scooters. They are not cycling anymore. They're just standing there and just pressing the throttle, and the scooter moves you around. So sometimes you have to learn, you have to unlearn certain skills and relearn certain skills. So as Alvin Toffler rightly says, these are the skills which needs to be improved at all time. Learning is lifelong, and in order for us to get the best in education, we have to have the ability to build a culture of adaptability, a culture of upskilling in Malaysia. We have to be open to learn, to unlearn, and to relearn. Thank you. Maybe we can open for questions. I'm not sure. Maybe back to Irman.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Zainal Abbas. Actually, we have two questions here, just a quick one. Okay, so based on the earlier session when you said that, you mentioned that content knowledge is important. Learning and technology is the tool to use, technology used to support teaching and learning process is also important. So as technology evolves, the first question is that, how do we stay relevant and up to date and cope with the changes and upgrades? That's the first question. Okay, the next question is,
Answer the first question first.
Okay.
Let me answer the first question first, because I don't have a pen to write the question.
Sure.
So how do we keep up with the ever-changing advancement in technology? Well, number one, you have to be aware of what is happening around you. Yep, you cannot just be zombies, or cannot be, you are not machines. Right, you are not machines. When we talk about the Industrial Revolution, from the first Industrial Revolution right up to the fourth Industrial Revolution, the world around us is changing. We talk about the machines, or in terms of transport. I give the example of a train using the coal. Then it involves using the steam engine. Then it involves using petrol. Then it involves using electronic. You have nuclear-powered train as well, but no, it's okay. But in the future, it might evolve even further. So we have to adapt with what is happening around us in order for us to be able to adapt. If we live within our own capsule, or in Malay, it's like living in our own tempurung. Kita hidup macam katak di bawah tempurung, only what is around us, then automatically you'll be left behind. I think in Malaysia, what we look at technology investment, selalu kita lambat. We are always late when we look at technology investment. Other countries are stepping forward in terms of technology driven. I remember in 2010, in Australia, in Victoria State, for example, they are actually doing the works online already, macam Delima, like what we have in Delima. So teachers are giving assignment online, students are doing it online, sending it back to the teachers online. This is back in 2010. But 2019, when we introduced Delima 2020, when we have the pandemic, suddenly everybody starts using it online. Australia has started 9 years ago, 10 years ago, back in 2010, they're using it already. So Malaysia is always playing catch up. So it is about time that we lift our tempurung. Kita angkat tempurung kita tu, supaya kita dapat lihat apa yang ada di luar sana. If we look at the screen right now, this is the screen. If we look at the screen is the box, right? So we have to look at what is outside the box. What is in the box is limited. You see what is within the frame. But what is actually outside the frame, there's more for you to explore. And you have to be aware of the changes which is happening around you. That is why it's very important for you when we talk about the changes, we talk also about lifelong learning. The resilient in lifelong learning is something which needs to be inculcated among our society. Di kalangan masyarakat kita perlu ada kesedaran untuk sentiasa mendapatkan ilmu pada setiap masa. If not, you'll be left behind and forever Malaysia will be stuck in that trap within the box which we have, or within the frame which we have. So we have to look at how other people are advancing. That is why masa kita, when we devise our digital education policy, we don't only look at what Akta Pendidikan says, the Education Act says. We don't look at what our education blueprint says, but we look at what other people are doing as well, and what other countries are doing as well, as in the ASEAN region, in the European region, and all over the world. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Zainal. Another one question. Yeah. So how do we support educators and also learners to cope with the changes and to stay relevant also?
Support is already there. So those who answered the question did not explore Delima. Delima introduced in 2019. Yeah, the second half of 2019, Delima was introduced. At that time, it was very basic. It provides the platform for e-learning to happen. But Delima has evolved to Delima 2.0 and now Delima 2.5. And then it's going to move to Delima 3.0. So in Delima, actually, we provided with the teachers with all the applications. We have over 12,000 videos for teachers as well to explore on the best practices in terms of education. Just now I showed the slide on the Delima interface on AI. You have so many AIs over there. I can't show you, but if I can have a real live display, I can actually show you how a teacher can actually prepare a lesson plan using the AI. Just to type out the AI, and the AI will actually create a lesson plan for you on what you want to teach. It will also suggest the various videos you can use, the worksheets you can use, or other supporting materials which are available online as well as offline inside Delima for you to actually use in the classroom. And Delima also provides personalized learning for the children. Just now I mentioned Khan Academy. You have mathematics interactive lessons over there for the students to actually try out and pace themselves in terms of their learning. So the Delima platform is there. the water is there, as they say. You can bring the horse to the water, but whether the horse looks at the water and drinks it, or whether the horse turns away and goes back under his own tempurung is another question. So how we support you? We support you in many ways. There's the Lima is available. You want to know about all the courses in terms of technology, it's available in the Lima. Recently, for example, Google announced investment of 4.9 billion ringgit in Malaysia. That's close to 10 billion ringgit in Malaysia. And one of the things which we are working with Google is to provide AI training for our teachers. That's going to be rolled out real soon. We're working with Google. We are going to create a module in which teachers can undergo training on how to use AI to support education. Microsoft has given us the AI toolkit. It's already in the Lima. Last 2 weeks ago, I think in our DUTA Digital Utilization Award ceremony, there was a special segment where Microsoft actually handed over the Microsoft AI toolkit to the minister, and that toolkit is actually also available on the Lima to be accessed by the teachers. So you don't need to look far, you don't need my phone number, you don't need my email. All you need is the Lima to get the courses. So there's a lot available there. Explore, see how you can utilize it further to help you actually with the education process. Okay.
All right,
Are
thank
you
you, Mr.
still?
Zainal.
Okay, Irman?
Okay. All right. So viewers out there, so please make sure that you explore your dilemma, and please make sure that you fully utilize dilemma. All right. So thank you so much, Mr. Zainal Abbas. Thank you
Thank
for such
you,
an
Irman.
insightful, okay, such an insightful sharing. And from the audience point of view, especially, I would like to say we are truly enlightened by the sharing of empowering lifelong learning, building a culture of adaptability and upskilling in Malaysia. So, ladies and gentlemen, with a heavy heart, I must inform you that we have come to an end of this series number 11. And personally, I have learned so much from this sharing, and I hope you do too. So, should there any questions, you can still drop them in the comment box, and we will attend to them when the time permits. So, once again, on behalf of Institute of Teacher Education International Languages Campus, IPGKBA, thank you, Mr. Zainal Abbas, for your time today. And our gratitude also goes to our technical team led by Mr. Satya, Mr. Daini, Mr. Fazi, and Mr. Azri. And not to forget our counterpart from the Educational Technology and Resources Division, BSTP, Ministry of Education Malaysia, led by Mr. Kavin Raj and Ms. Jenny Chiang. So that would be all for now. Please do not forget to watch our next webinar series, 12, which will be live at 10 a.m. in the morning, Malaysian time, tomorrow, entitled Getting Ideas to Work. Till then, jumpa lagi. See you soon. Bye.